everyone, my name is Johanna Fröse. I'm the creator of the Tenerife Spiritual Community Facebook group, and together with the amazing Nick Bell, we came up with the idea to interview different practitioners from the island in order for you guys to make it easier to put faces and stories behind the pictures and behind the countless posts that we have in the group every single day. Today's guest is Marco Bartolomeo, and Marco is a Thai yoga bodywork practitioner. He's a yoga and Qigong teacher, and he has been treating and teaching people around the world for many years now. And he helps his clients to remove their emotional, spiritual, mental, and physical blockages by combining conscious touch with various Eastern healing arts. So I'm really happy to have you here, Marco, and thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
Well, thank you so much for your intro and for inviting me. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to have the invitation and to be here to talk with you today.
Cool. So maybe as the first question, we could have a look at what, because I mentioned different healing arts, as you call them, like yoga and Qigong, and also body work and Thai massage. So there are so many different things here that are all coming together in the work that you do. Maybe you can briefly explain what these different components mean and why you chose to combine all of them.
Yes. Thank you. That's a very good and interesting question to open up that interview, because in my eyes, these three different healing arts that you mentioned, yoga, Qigong, and Thai massage, and we split them into Ayurvedic healing art for the yoga part, the traditional Chinese medicine for the Qigong part, and then the Thai medical part for the Thai massage part, with more the body work and conscious touch part. And so as I was practicing and initiating my practice and practicing them on their own, I somehow felt internally that there might be an interconnection. So what I started to do is, there is researchers out there who do research for vaccines or like clinical and medical things. And I started to research also in history, where do these healing arts actually originate? And there, even if I don't have a proof, but there is some indicators that somehow everything starts to originate back in India. And that is not surprising for me, because if I go into the Ayurvedic medicine, they, for example, like an Ayurvedic doctor, he takes your pulse, he looks at your tongue, and that the same thing actually happens also in a Chinese medicine, a Chinese doctor. So there is already an interconnection. And if we look at the body as a continuous energy flow part, there is also parallels that we have in between those different healing arts. As we see the yogic tradition, they call them nadis, and the Chinese medicine tradition, meridians, and the Thai massage tradition, Zen lines or energy lines, which are somehow connected or interconnected together. And for example, in Thai massage, there is 72,000, as well as in the yogic tradition. So it's somehow there is some interconnection, and we know today, especially for the Thai massage, that the personal physician from Buddha, Baka, his name, was developing some kind of healing art to not open anymore the body, and that's where everything started. And somehow over hundreds of years, it came from Thailand over Burma to over China to eventually to Thailand, where it was developed further. So looking at that, that what I was practicing for myself on its own, I felt there is something more, and I started to blend, especially the Hatha Vinyasa yoga practice that I practice myself, with the pure Qigong practice that I started to practice as well. And I found out for myself while I was combining and playing around to combine those two things, or those two healing arts, that I felt more presence and awareness in myself while practicing them. So the consciousness rises, the presence awareness rises, and I was actually feeling much more benefits, not only physically, but as you said already, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually in the subtle bodies. And that was something what I felt, wow, I want to explore that further. So I practiced more and more and combined more and more these healing arts together, and found out that the body mechanics of this yoga chi flow, how I call it today, the combination of hatha vinyasa yoga and qigong, is actually a preparation for the bodywork practice or the Thai massage practice that I was practicing already on my own. But feeling into my practice, it actually improved my body mechanics in my massage or bodywork practice. And so therefore I felt, wow, I want to continue to combine those three healing arts. And that's why I can't see them separate anymore. And that's what I teach day by day and practice day by day for myself.
Yeah, and that's something that at least I personally can really feel when I interact with you, either through talking, but also when I attended your workshop a few weeks ago, that everything you do and that you teach is something that you embody and that you have been putting together step by step, and you can really tell from the presence that you have when you teach these things and when you talk about it. And I think that's probably the most valuable component of it, your presence and your intention with this. And this brings me to your personal story, kind of, because before you became a practitioner in this field, you did something else entirely. So what did you do before, and how did it happen, like this change?
Yeah. Thank you so much for your words. I really appreciate that, and it's also a very interesting question because, I was actually over 10 years in the sales business and was working latest in the late 2000 until 2010 as a recruitment consultant for the pharmaceutical industry. And actually, if I look back now, that was the initiator to be interested into healing arts, because I was in contact day in, day out with medical doctors. And so I was talking to medical doctors, was interviewing them, was preparing them for the interviews. And somehow I also got more understanding about the human body, even if I haven't studied anything about anatomy or physiology. But I found it very, very interesting. And also we're in contact with biologists, pharmacists, and went more into the human structure. Despite of some, some ethical questions that I asked myself after a couple of years, I continued in that field, but somehow didn't feel quite right. It didn't match anymore my ethics. And that's what I stand for, and also how they treated their employees. And as soon as I become a team leader and I had my own team and I had to, guide them through their work, they asked me to guide them in a certain way that was not human-like. And I thought, well, if I work with medical doctors and they take care of other people, and always with the highest good of interest, I want to have the same for my employees. And they didn't let me. They said, no, you need to do it our way, which was not human-like. And so I decided to step out of that paradigm and went to create my own little agency. So I had a little middle step in between. And as I really love to traveled so much in my life, I went back to South America, where I've been earlier in my life, and I was in between Germany and South America quite a lot, specifically Argentina. I love that country and its people. And so I was building up an agency for people who want to learn Spanish in South America and organize social projects. So again, the connection towards helping the human in a way. And was doing that for 1.5 years, and somehow I was building it was going well, but somehow it didn't really feel still complete. Something was missing. And I was already a yoga practitioner at that time. Even when I started back as a recruitment consultant, I started to practice. And after 2-3 years of practice, maybe it was that shift in between that I needed to understand what I really supposed to do in this lifetime. And after a while, I went back from Argentina to Germany. I needed to be back in my parents' house, and it was not quite easy to be back there. And I was reflecting a lot, actually. I was reading a book called The Heart of the Yoga. I was going back to practice a lot, meditation and yoga. And I was serving my local community in my village, where I grew up. I felt it's now time to give back and do a little bit of karma yoga in this sense. And the people there always asked me, because I was a former professional football player, and they said, well, maybe when you're older, like around 30, you can help us out. And I was exactly 30 at that time, and I felt this is the time to give back. So I went to play for them again and to guide the younger players. And that was really, really nice also for myself. I did that for around 2 months, and I was in between practicing, discovering myself in a new way, serving the community and reflecting more. And that's where magic started to happen. And I reflected what my mom and my sister said when I was maybe a teenager, like 14, 15 years old. And they always told me, well, you should do something therapeutic, like physiotherapy. You have such thin and nice and warm hands, because there's, for fun, I massage them. And I reminded myself, hey, maybe you should give that a try. And I started to Google yoga massage, and Thai yoga massage popped up. And I clicked on a link, which was not even the first one, but I was called to click that one. And it was a course which were happening in the jungle of Chiang Mai. And it was somehow different from the others, because it was not talking so much about the massage technique or the practice itself. It was more talking about coming together, being in community, and feeling yourself again fully, and therefore also being able to feel someone else or to feel a group of people. And I felt, wow, this is exactly what I need at this time. I needed again to connect to myself. Or maybe I was asking myself, I need to connect to myself for the very first time in my life, because I was disconnected from myself. And so I went 4 or 5 days later, I was boom, up in the plane to Chiang Mai and taking the course. And I felt already, well, this is something that I want to do continuously. And also my teacher at that time that become a very dear friend and colleague as well. He encouraged me to continue, because he said, well, you're very talented. And so I continued that path. I missed my flight on purpose. My sister sent me my computer to Thailand, I remember, so I could work a little bit from my agency that I still had to make some money. And I continued to study more, practicing also in a retreat center in Cambodia. And that was just the best thing I could do for myself in the practice, to just continue to practice immediately. And therefore I decided to do that professionally. And we're searching for schools, colleges around the globe. And the first address was Bangkok, and studied Thai medical massage, but that was tricky because it was only offered in Thai language. So I decided to go more maybe into the Western culture. I had a contact in San Diego, where I was earlier on my travels in 2008. And I felt called to a place called IPSB, International Professional School of Bodywork in college, which is not anymore existent today, but that was another special jam that I was lucky enough to experience, because it was not only a college. Their teachers were incorporating the spiritual aspect of the practice in any way. And I'm so grateful even today being connected to some of them, and having learned from them, and incorporating that for myself, and then giving it in a way that feels good to me. And that's how it was given to me, and that's how I wanted to give it to other people. So yeah, that's in a short version the story. But it's always it fills my heart every time that I'm able to share that story with people.
Yeah, I can feel that. And what I'm hearing a lot is that you felt called to do this, you felt called to do that, and then it all came together, and you went to these amazing places that maybe don't even exist anymore, and you were able to be taught and learn from people who were really good at what they do. And so what you are doing today really seems to be what people would probably call your calling, because you follow these calls, and then it all comes together in that way. And probably
absolutely. And that's also, whoever is watching that video, there's nothing impossible in life, because people, I remember when I was 13, and they said, well, you're 30, you cannot start now something new and something completely different. And I just felt, well, that's bullshit. If I feel that in my heart, it can't be wrong. And it's only about to make the decision, and then everything else will come and fall into place, if that is really what your heart is telling you. And as soon as far as it goes to myself, the practices of Qigong and yoga have actually opened up that possibility of listening to my heart. So it all started with that. And then afterwards, everything fell into place, because I was just following that calling of the heart. So.
Yeah, I was going to ask the question, because you mentioned that even when you were still working in that pharmaceutical consultancy, that you already did yoga back then, and then at some point you started to apparently hearing these calls and following them. So, and this is something that I can personally relate to very much, that even only one kind of practice in that way can make such a difference, that you suddenly are able to operate in a completely different way in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if people think, oh, well, I'm not flexible enough, I cannot go to your class because I feel ashamed or whatever. Here I can say it's not about that, and it's about really break up your shell, because actually, remember when I went to my first yoga class, former footballer, actually not so flexible, and but I went there, and the teacher was playing the harmonium, and we were singing in the beginning and the end of the practice, and that actually led me somehow to tears, and it really breaks something in me. And I didn't went back to the yoga practice because of the yoga asana. I went back because of the music, because of the community, because of this energy that I felt, and that filled me up with so much joy. And that's what I want also to experience other people if they come now to my class. It's not about flexibility, and then people don't even aware the first time, or the first times they go to a class, they're not even aware what happens internally on the side. They maybe feel and understand later on what that meant for them. So I can only encourage the people, find a nice place where they feel really comfortable and feel their hearts and the connection again to themselves and others.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So talking to you, also studying your work and reading about what you do and how you see all these things, there are two things that come up a lot, and one of them is your emphasis on the yin and yang principle. That's something that I would like to talk about. And the other thing is that you talk about the different bodies, not only the physical body, but also the emotional, mental, and spiritual body, and that the whole conscious touch approach is about touching all of these bodies. And how do you do that?
Yes, it's a great question. So first of all, the yin-yang principle we can apply in every practice that we mention, no? In the Hatha Vinyasa yoga practice, in the Qigong practice, but also in our bodywork practice. To prepare ourselves, we do the yoga and Qigong practice. So we look into that practice and we look into yin and yang aspect. So yin, in this sense, we know more as the divine feminine energy. That means not that all of the feminine energy needs to be soft, but it's also a quality of listening, of observing, of understanding, of seeing, like these qualities that I would consider more as the yin quality. The yang quality is more considered as the masculine energies, and it's more about probably strength, about putting things into action to make things happen, to have the fire, no? more the fire element. So if we look, and I want to actually share that in that interview, because if we look at the human body, it's also split it into yin and yang parts. And I want to make just a simple example of the arms and also the legs. Okay, so the legs are considered more as the yang part of the body, which connects more towards the yin part of human earth. So the earth is also called Mother Earth. So it's a female energy. Also, everything what goes more with the female sign towards the ground in a valley, more connection towards the ground, towards the earth, is more yin-like. So we have always a connection of yin and yang energies. They cannot live separately. It's impossible. So the earth connects towards the feet. Okay, the feet or the legs are yang, connecting towards the yin, and the arms are more thin, more the yin quality, and they could be also more floating. We cannot do that so much with the legs. So it's more the aspect, if you see dancers, they're very graceful in their movement. So the yin part of the body is connecting more towards the yang part of existence in the universe and cosmos, towards the infinite sky. We call it also Father Sky. So it's more the masculine energy. And here we have again the connection yin towards yang. And if we understand that not only in ourselves, but also in our environment, that yin can't exist without the yang and vice versa, then everything becomes very, very logical and clear for us. And that we can approach then into our bodywork practice again. There's always a yin part. For example, I have my hand, which is more yin, it's soft. And then I bend over into my hands and I apply pressure, and that's more the yang part, okay? So the power of my body is more the yang part. And there's always a yin towards the yang. And if we understand that principle, actually body work happens as a whole, with your whole body, not only with your hand. It's you touching with your whole body. So this is one aspect of yin and yang. The other aspect that you mentioned of conscious touch and how to touch also the invisible, not only just the physical aspect and the physical suit that we got, but also as we go into yogic tradition, we have the layers out there and the subtle bodies that we call, mental, emotional, spiritual bodies. Let's call them easier the energetic bodies. And these, to touch those, we need to feel more first our own energy field inferior in order to go also external and to feel someone else's energy field. And therefore, the Qigong magic comes in. And for that also to practice pure Qigong helps us to awake these internal energies, to feel it. And it's kind of like that you feel your own blood flow, because the blood flow is energy. So we have in Western medicine the blood flow, for example. In Eastern medicine, we have Qi, and the Qi flows through the meridians and energy line continuously through. Then we are considered as healthy. If there is a stagnation, means a blood stagnation, the blood cannot flow freely, we maybe have a seed for dis-ease. If we see the word disease, it's dis and ease, so it's away from ease. And how can we put it together again? Through the practices of Qigong, very, very soft, energetic practices. We go more into the energetic body for ourselves. And then slowly we start to practice with each other. And therefore, you experience that also in the workshop that we did last month, that we slowly go and enter into someone's space consciously and give ourselves time. The slower we move, the more we feel. It doesn't matter if it's Qigong, yoga, body work, or if you walk over a hot sand. No, you don't feel anything because you want to run over. If you want to feel more, you stay on the sand. You feel, oh, it's pretty hot. So this is the approach of the conscious touch, and also to leave your essence. I call it the blueprint. So once we go very, very softly in, and we stay there for a while, and we visualize, and we work also with visualizations, especially in our Qigong practice already. We practice that on our own. And then as we practice it with someone else, we can apply that know-how again to visualize that my hand remains there once I've left. And it actually works. It worked every time again. And you don't have to be practicing that for years. If you have the ability to be fully present with yourself, you can achieve that already after the first workshop or in the first workshop, that people experience that phenomenon to really feel the other, but has left already, a few seconds or a minute ago. And that's what we call conscious touch.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect example of this principle that you can only meet other people on the level where you have already met yourself, or in the moment where you're really present with yourself, you can meet the other person as well on that level and with all these different layers. Whereas when you're not present and you just touch someone else like that without any specific intention, it feels very different, and it's a very different kind of interaction.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, and actually for me it was the first time that I ever did Qigong in your workshop, and I was pretty amazed by this first exercise that we did, just placing the palms of our hands on the thighs of the other person. I felt like, whoa, I'm going into a deep hole, and it was amazing.
Yes. And that's the beauty of it, because everyone has a different experience, and there is no right and wrong. There just is. And if we can respect that, to not have it a certain way, then as an individual you can unfold, and that's what we want. Because if you are your authentic you, it doesn't matter if you give like a 5 or a 5-hour massage or 5 minutes massage. It will be always feel good, because it's authentic you. You have the ability to be yourself and unfold. And these exercises help to lead you towards that path. not only for the massage practice, because a lot of people think I'm going to do a massage course because I want to massage people, but there's so much more behind that, or do a yoga teacher training, whatever it is. It's actually the first step to heal yourself. I understood that later on, because in the first course, someone told me, you know, you're doing that course to learn massage technique, you know? I said, well, maybe yes. He said, no, you don't. You know, you do that course and you're here because of something else. And I said, all right. I didn't really, you know, resonate with that at that moment, but afterwards, yes, I could resonate with that.
Yeah, and it's like how you do anything, like how you do anything is how you do everything. So once you enter this this level of being self-aware and whatever, everything you do changes. And another example that just came to mind was when you have sexual interactions with other people. I think we all have had an experience, or many people probably, where you are not connected with the other person, where it's just a mechanical procedure kind of. And then when you have the comparison to when you're really connected to the other person, and maybe even, you know, both people have been doing self-awareness practices before and stuff like that, it's so different. It's such a different experience. And so I think it applies for all areas of our lives. So it's super powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a good example. I think in everything that we do in life, if we are connected, it's just a different story. Yeah, and these practices help not only for the actual massage practice in this sense, or yoga qigong practice, but it just for any situation in life. So therefore, for me, it's more a life learning experience, and still continuing for myself. You know, it's vast.
Yes. Okay, we only have a few minutes left. I would like to talk to you for another 2 hours or so. It's super interesting. But let's talk about the different courses that you currently offer. Like, if people want to work with you, you also give treatments. Like, people can come to you if they want to receive a treatment, but they can also come to you when they are already like yoga teachers or other practitioners, and they want to up level their skills and ways of teaching other people or treating other people. So what do you have to offer at the moment?
Yes. Yes, I have plenty of options there. So first of all, of course, if you are in Tenerife and you would like to experience like a treatment, a healing session, then we can arrange that for sure. And therefore, I do different therapies either on the mat or on the table. That depends on also on your personal needs, and we can decide that together. And for the training part, I offer at the moment 2 different bigger trainings. So one is that it's coming up in June, I think 18th till the 25th of June. It's a yoga teacher training, 50-hour yoga teacher training for existing teachers. So if you're a 200-hour graduate of any teacher training, you would be able to attend that. And I would always recommend to have at least 6 to 12 months of teaching experience to take out the maximum of the course. And therefore, we go more into what I mentioned earlier, yin and yang flows, actually. Sequencing flow, also how to cue and tone of voice, how to increase your, your presence also in class. And how can you achieve an atmosphere which makes it not just a yoga class, but just also an experience that people have. Yeah. So if you go to a theater, to a cinema, you have some kind of sensation. And that's what I like to transmit also to the students, to be their authentic you and to create an ambience that people say, wow, that was not just going on a physical level, that went beyond that. And so we work on this. And also we will have an introduction into the body work and the soul in touch, how I call my modality. And that leads us to how adjusting people. And I'd like to also replace the word adjusting to guidance, because the way we, let's say, guide someone in the pose or correct someone, but I like to guide actually, is different. It's more soft. I'm working a lot again with body mechanics that we learn in the bodywork practice, in our Qigong practice, and all of that will be connected. So we look also into the interconnection of Hatha Vinyasa Yoga, Qigong as together, YogaQiFlow, and how to put them together. So it will be a week of exploration and community. I'd also like, I haven't mentioned that, to play the guitar, even if I'm still beginner, but I like to incorporate that, and it's also takes, puts a flair in the group. Yeah. So this is one training, and that leads then towards actually a bodywork training that I'm about to modify a little bit, and having also an online learning part in there, and that will be more towards October, aiming towards the 1st of October to let it start, and an online learning part earlier to have time to get into the material. And then you come in person, you go deeper, and you have then all of that lifetime always recorded. So it will be a different learning experience, that after having done a few courses, I decided to restructure it and took the feedback of the previous clients and students.
And for this course, you don't have to be a yoga teacher, right? This
exactly.
For the bodywork course, you can also attend if you have no practicing experience, right? Yes,
you can also attend not being a yoga teacher. However, it would be beneficial if you are in the holistic field already. You don't have to be into yoga. You could be also into, I don't know, meditation, Qigong, Reiki. You could be an osteopath, whatever. So you could be already in the holistic field, and you would get more out of that course, but it's not essentially. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you so much, Marco. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I think, I hope that you guys out there have a better understanding now about Marco's work and what he does. And we will link your website below the video. Also, link your Facebook account to it, so people can reach out to you and get in touch with you. Is there anything else that you would like to say before we end this?
Just thank you so much for that interview. I really enjoyed also talking to you, and it's always a pleasure. I'm really grateful for you and Nick that you opened that community, which is growing so much, and it's amazing to see also that process for myself. Returned to the island about 2 years ago, and I think that's where you started most likely that page, and it's just beautiful. Also the other members and the people who are sharing those things, and we need more people like you and Nick, because you bring people together, and I'm really grateful for you guys, and also for that interview and for that interest in my work. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, and for you guys out there, feel free to comment below the video, ask questions if you want to, reach out to Marco, or also to me if you want to. And Nick and I are also still talking about organizing an offline event finally, so we can come together and, with this community and see each other face to face, and maybe even touch each other.
That would be amazing.
Yes.
I'm totally up for it. Yes.
Cool. Let's do it. Okay.
Let's do it. All right.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.